Thank you very much that you all came here, and thank you to BGG.CON for the possibility to have this speech and to explain a little bit more what Spiel des Jahres is all about. I'm apologizing at the beginning because English is not my native language, so if you don't understand something, maybe sometimes I pronounce things not in the correct way, just ask questions. And you're also free to ask questions during the whole speech that I give. Just when something comes up, raise your hand and we will discuss about it. And my name is Tom Felber, and I am the chairman of Spiel des Jahres since 2011. So we have 2 years period of our duties, and so I will be re-elected maybe in January at the Toy Fair in Nuremberg, and then for the next 2 years. I have been a jury member since 2000, exactly the year 2000. The first game that I voted with was Carcassonne. But I haven't been in the jury since the whole time. I quit my job in the year 2008. I traveled around the world, and I was back in Europe in 2010. And then I started to go to join the jury in 2011 again. And my profession is journalist. I'm actually normally I write about court and crime. I'm working for a newspaper mainly in Zurich. That's in Switzerland. It's the most important Swiss daily business newspaper. It's called NZZ, Neue Zürcher Zeitung. They also call it the New York Times of Switzerland. And in this newspaper, there is actually every second Saturday since 1997, there's a column about games, and it's half of a page of the newspaper. It's pretty big, and I always review games there. And I'm the only Swiss person. I'm not German, even the jury is German. I'm the only Swiss member in the jury, and there's also an Austrian woman. And actually, at the moment, we are 13 jury members, and 11 of them are Germans. Yeah. And so, yeah, when we talk about Spiel des Jahres, I think what you have to know first, the basic thing about Spiel des Jahres. I mean, we here at a con that it's called Board Game Geek.CON. So it's about geeks, and actually that's exactly the opposite what Spiel des Jahres is about. Our intention was, and still is, that we want to say to play games is not something special. It's not only for geeks, it's for everybody. It should be a major part of the whole culture. Everybody should play. And it should be, if you look at different kind of cultures, it should be on the same level like movies, music, literature, and opera and everything else. And that is our goal. And that was our goal when we were founded back in 1978. And yeah, we are often criticized. We are critics. We are game critics, but we also are often criticized, and even, I mean, you can sometimes also read something about us on Board Game Geek, and mostly it's because of a misunderstanding, I think, because our peer group is really not the Board Game Geek group. I mean, if you are on Board Game Geek and you go to a con like that, then you're not peer group of Spiel des Jahres. Peer group of Spiel des Jahres is everybody. Everybody, people who don't play, people who only play once a year, and I think that's the main thing about us. So we were founded in 1978, and we were founded by journalists, and it was the goal was to promote playing games as an important form, important kind of culture in the society. And yeah, we say we promote games as a cultural asset, and we encourage gaming amongst family and friends. And yeah, and that's why every year we make a list where we recommend a lot of games, and then we have our awards. So 1978, it was completely different time, also in Germany. I mean, playing board games was always a normal thing to do in families in Germany. Not like it's not like it was here. I think the culture of playing board games has always been and still is stronger than it is in the average American family, and it's yeah, it's like I grew up with board games, and my friends grew up with board games, and we played games at school, and we have a national Swiss card games that everybody is playing that. And we have a TV show about this card game. It's called Jahres. It's a trick-taking game, and the TV show has been running for the last 30 years. And it's very popular. People are playing the card game in a studio, and you can ring up, and then they show you the card, and then you play with the cards. And it's just I think it's the longest running TV show that's still existing in Switzerland. So playing games has always been a very strong factor. And when they founded Spiel des Jahres, there were maybe 30 or 40 new games a year. So you could go and play the whole, all the games that were published within 1 year over one weekend. And so it was very easy also for the jury to select games, because there were not many around. And as you know, the first, yeah, it started. It didn't start with a big plan or with we have a concept or whatever. They just some journalists met and they said it could be a cool thing to do that. And then they elected a game for the year 1978, and it was Hase und Igel from David Parlett. And then what a lot of people don't know, it was elected already in 1978. And then they didn't manage to organize an award ceremony. And so they came together in 1979 again, and then they elected again Hase und Igel. So it was actually elected 2 times, and then they organized an award ceremony. And it over the years, as you might know, the award became very important. I think the high peak, the most important game was Settlers of Catan, and from then on it rocketed. And in the year 2000, we invented the second award, the children's game, and about 4 years ago, since then we have the third award. It's called Kennerspiel des Jahres, and it's for people who are more experienced. Because I think I can be honest, it really also has a little bit to do with Dominion. Dominion won the award Spiel des Jahres, and there were a lot of people in Germany that had problems with that game because it was too heavy, too complicated for them. And because we want to award a game that everybody can play, that everybody can buy as a gift for to put under the Christmas tree, and then the grandmother can play with the 8-year-old. So we had to think about it because there was a lot of criticizing about that, because the people they were not able to play it, because and that's also a reason why we invented the third award. But actually, it's really not an award for very complicated games or for freaky games. Also, the Kennerspiel des Jahres should still be an award, should still be a game that everybody more or less can play. So, yeah, with a little bit experience, of course. How does the jury work? I mean, I don't know what you know about us. It's I never applied for being a jury member. It's you cannot do that. It's just you have to be a reviewer of games in a German-speaking country. You have actually to review in German, because when we started it was quite obvious. But nowadays it's also like that. We have to have rules. I mean, there are so many games, and if we only look at the German games with German rules, with German distribution, it's still kind of manageable to do it. And a lot of jury members, they're also not very good in speaking foreign languages, and so we still reduce it just to German. And a lot of people, they ask us, why did Quirkel win? It was around 4 years before, or I think 6 years before in the US. So for us, it only counts the moment when a game enters into Germany with a German distribution. The people who are in the jury, they have to prove that they are competent, that they know something about games, and the way to prove that is to write reviews, or you can also blog, or you can have a radio show and talk about games, or even YouTube channels or things like that. And then the rest, the jury will, we do our own research. We look at the publishers, we look who is around, and then after 2, 3, 4 years, when a guy or a woman, they prove that they know something about games and they still doing it regularly, then we ask them to join the jury. That's how it works. But actually, I wasn't asked, so they just told me, you're in the jury and you have to come. So in the early days, it was considered to be an honor to being asked and go there. But of course, nowadays we ask everybody, and there's also people who don't want to come and don't want to join because it's a hell of a lot of work. We also had some jury members, they were only there for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, and then they realized it's too much, we cannot do that. So the first thing is you have to be a journalist, and you have to be completely independent. That's the second thing. Completely independent from the industry, from game industry, toy industry. So you're not allowed to play test. You're not allowed to write PR for game companies. You're not allowed to write rules or things like that. You're even not allowed, if my girlfriend would work in a game store selling games, I had to leave the jury because she's making money with games, and there is a financial interest, and maybe she recommends games from there or that. So, and of course, we are not allowed to publish our own games or to develop our own games. Like it's also common with some reviewers in the US. So that's not possible in Germany. And then when you're in the jury, it's your responsibility to know the market and to research the market. So it's not like that somebody pays an entry fee and sends us the games. So each and every game that has a German rule and that has a distribution in Germany actually is in the race. And the jury members, they are responsible to play the games and know the games. And so it's, yeah, they're always saying it's about 1,000 new releases alone in Essen, and then they say it's about 300, 400 in Nuremberg in Germany. But I think we look at about 400 games, 300 to 400 games, because there's also a lot of expansions. There are a lot of games from very small companies. They have to have a certain number of copies printed. And then there are a lot of games like Monopoly, when we don't look at the 27th edition of Monopoly from this year. So it's about 300 to 400 every year. And of course, yeah?
Do you recommend games to each other?
Of course, yeah. I come to that. There is also there is a second jury. I mean, I brought a brochure. There are some brochures behind there, and you will see there are two juries. One is for the children game. That's the other one. So they also look at 200-300. And how we do it? We have an internet forum in the internet, and we are discussing all the games. So it's possible that I miss out on a game. And for that, we also have a 2 years period. So it's not only about 1 year, it's always 2 years, and that's also for safety reasons. It's still possible that we miss the game, and it's a very good one, so there's a second chance. And then when we play games, each of us is playing the games with their own groups, with their own friends. So we almost never play together, because they're Berlin, in Hamburg, I'm in Zurich, so we're not really at the same spot. And then whenever we play anything, we're discussing it. We write about it in our forum. And then if one or two or three jury members they writing, oh, that's a good game, you have to look at it, so automatically everybody will play it then. Or even the opposite is possible. There are 2 or 3 jury members who write in the forum, this game is just, it's rubbish, you don't have to play it. And then maybe you still try it, but very late. Then you know, oh, I think I don't have to look at it so quickly. And then, yeah, we start. Yeah, it's starting actually in August. In September, it's already starting, and then Essen is the most important fair and the most important place where we get aware of the games, and then we are just playing the whole winter until about April, and everybody organizes this in a different way. My way to do it, I have an email newsletter, and everybody who wants in Switzerland or in the region of Zurich can join this internet newsletter. And then I will publish dates every month, about 20 to 30. So I'm playing almost every evening, and sometimes Saturday at 2 o'clock and Sunday at 2 o'clock. And then people, they just can sign in, and then we have testing groups. And it's never more than, it's 4 or 8 people, it's only 2 tables, not more. But on this list, there are about 400 people at the moment. And so I always mix them together in a different way. Or some people, they come once a year, others they come every week, and it's very important that you have a very high number of different people and different opinions, and that you play the games all the time with a lot of times, and a lot of times with a lot of different people. because you know that it's extremely possible that the game is that you have a really good game, but the people are not in the mood for it. You have the wrong people. You have people who don't like this kind of games, and so we play. I mean, I play each and every game at least 3 times before I say it's we don't have to look at it. I always give a second or third chance, and then if you really think a game is good, then you play 10 times at least. And when there is a decision, it could be a game that we put on the recommended list. Then you play it 20 times, and you play it with families, with young children, 8-year-old. Then I sometimes go to hospitals, or I go to a home for retired people and play games with them. So because they are the peer group, the Spiel des Jahres should be playable for everybody. And what we do, we are always discussing the whole time, and then we start making lists in March. Everybody, each jury member writes down 20 games, and then beginning of April, each jury member writes down 15 games. So that everybody knows which games do I have to play. And then we meet in conference in May, and that's the hardest part, because we meet there for about 4 or 5 days, and then we really are putting the recommended list together. And the recommended list consists of games where everybody should find something for himself or herself. So there has to be a very large variety. There should be a party game, there should be a game for 2, there should be complicated games or easy games, and more smaller games, bigger games. And then we are discussing, and we are voting. So when we meet the first day, I think it's always about 50 to 60 games left. It's all the games that have at least one vote. There are in the discussion, and sometimes it's even possible that a game only with one vote makes it to the recommended list, because this jury member can convince everybody, or we don't have any other game of this kind, or also it's possible that jury members they were so convinced that somebody else had this game on the list. So then we are discussing, and we try to make a list that consists of about 20 games, 15 to 20 games in the Spiel des Jahres category and in the Kennerspiel category. And then it's just who says yes, who says no, and all the yes games are on the recommended list. And then we make a second turn, a third turn, that in the end we have about 15 to 20 games. But it's also possible that we look at the list, and then we see, oh, we're missing out on something, and then also games that we voted down from the list, we can bring them all the time in again. So it's a very long discussion. We also, if somebody says this game does that, and jury members don't believe it, we start playing the game again. And the hardest part about this whole process is, I mean, the games that you really like, that you think they are very good, that's easy. I mean, you can talk about them and you can try to convince the others. But the real hard part is when another jury member says a game is very good, it's the best game ever, and you just think it's shit. And then you really have a hard time to argue why it is bad. And that's why you also have to play the games that you really don't like. You have to play them 20 times just to find out how can you convince the others, what's wrong with the game. So, and in the end, we have this list, and when we have the list, it's only possible that everybody votes yes. So we have to have a unique vote, not one single no, not one single I don't know, maybe. So everybody has to say yes, we're committed to this list. And from this moment on, everybody stands before or behind the list. And nobody is able to say anymore, oh, this game I don't like. And it's also very, I mean, it's a hard part because I'm the chairman. I always have to, for 1 year, I always have to promote the list and have to defend the list against criticism. And of course, there's games on the list that I don't like because that's how democracy works. And then we have 3 games of each category. We have 3 games that we nominate for the prize, and then we publish it in May, and in June there is the award ceremony for the Spiel des Jahres, for the children's game, and in July it's the award ceremony for the other 2 categories. And then there is that's the most interesting moment. I mean, the period where people are discussing. But yeah.
So, how do you get your 3 nominees? Do you have the recommended list first, and vote from among those?
Yeah, we have the recommended list, but the discussion started earlier. So we already discussed about nominees in March or April, and everybody knows which ones could be the games. And then, but when we have the list, then we try to get 3 nominees. And sometimes the problem is that on this recommended list there are not 3 games that we can use as nominees. And so we have sometimes to bring another game into the discussion because we cannot. There are good games, but they're not made for being Spiel des Jahres sometimes. And then, we go to Berlin or to Hamburg with the Kinderspiel, and actually we just vote the day before we present the result. So that's also that nobody, that there's no leak, and it's also about the event. It's a press conference where we present the winners, and nobody knows who will win, who will lose. And that's something that we all are journalists, and so journalists, they love emotions. So it's really live. People, they don't know if they win or not, and we have always 1 winner and 2 losers, and it's very emotional. I mean, the winner, I mean, for him it's the greatest thing in the world, and you can feel that, and you also see the others. They're sometimes very sad and very angry. Yeah.
The winner, who gets acknowledged? Is the publisher, the designer, does the developer get credit?
Yeah, actually, we say it's the game itself first. First, it's the game. Like the Spiel des Jahres should be an ambassador for the culture of gaming. But and the public, the normal person that plays game which is buying a game for Christmas, they don't care about the publisher and things like that. But then on the stage, the publisher gets acknowledged, of course, the designer and the artwork. And we have to do it in July because in Germany, let's say 60 to 70% of all games, they're sold in around Christmas as present. And everybody, when we award a game, everybody looks at our logo. and then people they don't know anything about games in stores. There is no staff that knows anything. They don't know anything about games sometimes, and so people became really trustful to our award, and that's why they just walk into the stores and are buying this game more or less blindly. And that's why we have to award it in July, that the publisher has enough time to run the production. So even if in July it's not the time, nobody cares about games normally. Yeah.
How do you think about the number of players that a game can support? Like some that are really good for 5 but not as good for 3. Do you communicate that?
Yeah, that's a very important part, very important aspect for Spiel des Jahres. The ideal thing would be that a game that wins Spiel des Jahres is good for 2 players, 3, 4, 5, up to 6. That would be great. But of course, it's not really possible. It's also, Settlers of Catan, it was not playable with 2 people, but it was the most successful Spiel des Jahres ever. So it depends. It just depends. The actual Spiel des Jahres, you can play it with 3, 4, but you can also play it with 8 people, and the thing about it is also that it changes the character. The game becomes a whole different game if you play it with 3 people or with 8 people, and it's just a matter of discussion. It's a matter of opinions in the jury. If it's good. We also had the discussion. We had also nominees that were only playable for 2 players. We had think about 3 or 4 2-player games within our nominations during the last 15 years, and we were sure that they could have won. So it's always a matter of discussion. It's also about Spiel des Jahres. We don't have very strict rules. We don't say it has to be that and that and that. It's a process. It's a mindset thing within the group, and it's a lot about discussions. Yeah.
So there is no written set of guidelines that these games are too long or too short, or accommodate so many players or too few players. It's individually up to the jurors as to what they think in their own mind is an appropriate recommendation.
Yes, that's how it is. And but we are also, we trust jury members that they're not really out of mind, so that they are that they still they think rational. So, but yeah, there are no strict regulations about it. Yeah.
You've mentioned with Dominion the issue of complexity in the game.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to say with El Grande or Tikal winning the Spiel des Jahres, then you compare it with some of the games that more recently won.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a function of gaming culture in its moment, the composition of the jury, or just the games that were available during that calendar year?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but it's really like that. There is no bigger thing. It's just a year. It's just sometimes we have a year where we have about 5 games that would be great to be Spiel des Jahres, like the year when Ticket to Ride won. In the same year there was St. Petersburg. There was also from Knizia. Huh? Yes, and in another year, it's not a secret. In another year, Einfach Genial from Knizia would have won if there weren't have been very strong competitors. And sometimes we have years where we don't see any game in February, March, and we are really worrying. So it's also. There's also luck involved. It's also which game is accidentally in the same year than another game. So, yeah.
So this is more about general board gaming in Germany. As a journalist, do you have some knowledge of understanding how the board gaming culture was developed in Germany? How it is that playing board games is so important in Germany versus other countries?
Yeah, it's. I mean, in Germany, it's still like that. When you are a family and you're having lunch, everybody is sitting at a table together and eating lunch or eating dinner. And I was in the US as a student, and it was really not the case. That I mean, it's also still considered to be very valuable that when you are parents and you are educating your children, or they grow up, that you're doing something with them together, and that you spend a lot of time together, and that's a very great thing to do, and always has been to play games, board games with children, and it's just, I mean, the way I grew up, it was just a normal thing. It was just part of the culture. I don't know where that actually came from, but it always has been like this.
You mentioned at the beginning purpose of the Spiel des Jahres. Maybe the real purpose was to raise the culture of games equivalent to other art forms.
Yeah.
Now that it's been around for over 30 years, do you see evidence that that's happened?
Yeah, of course.
What evidence do you see?
I see it when you go, how everybody knows about Spiel des Jahres nowadays. I mean, it's just, when I was younger, people sometimes they used to laugh at people who were playing board games when they were as grown-ups, and like it maybe was here too. But nowadays it's actually everywhere in the culture. I mean, I think it wasn't really thinkable 30 years ago when they founded Spiel des Jahres that the major business newspaper of Switzerland would have a game column every second week and would take it serious. And you also see it when you look at TV shows. I think it's the same in the US, that the people are playing games or inside TV shows, and it's also about just the number of articles that are written, or the number of blogs, or the number of any kind of thing that's going on, the number of public game festivals in cities. I mean, that in Germany you find everywhere, in more or less each major city, they have their game events, and that hasn't been the case 30 years ago.
Do you see the geek culture growing such in Germany that eventually the Spiel will bring in around a fourth prize for the expert Spiel des Jahres or anything like that?
We don't have any intention of doing that at the moment, but you never know what the future will bring. But actually the fourth prize is not our peer group, and you know that there are other awards existing already. In Germany there is the Deutsche Spielepreis, which is an award that is related to the fair in Essen, and I think that's the award that really is suited for these kind of people, and we don't want to get, actually we have no intention to get in any competition with them. So I think, as of what I see, I think we want invent another award for the next 10 years.
You mentioned, we've heard before that a lot of, say, German families will buy a small number of games a year, look for that logo and buy that, like the holiday time. So that must mean that a lot of families build up a collection, if they're keeping them, of all these Spiel des Jahres winning games. Does that ever give the jury a sense that oh, we should be picking a game to round out that family's collection. So we have a dexterity game one year, we have a card game one year, we have a, is there a year to year?
Yeah, I understand the question, but not at all. We don't care. It's always no. I mean, the jury is also changing. For this year's jury, there was a new guy coming. Last year, 2 new guys were coming, and people are coming and going. And so they don't have these intentions about which game was the last year, which game was the year before. We don't. It's just always the discussion about the about this year's games, what's around. And then it's always about experience. It's about experiences. We played the nominees, I played them between April and July. I played them at least 50 times with so many different people. And it's not a rational decision. It's not objective. It's just you have this experience, what happened during all these games, and which game is suited the most. Where do you have the best feelings? And it's a lot about emotions. It's when it comes to just when it comes to the end. Of course, before that, when you're looking at all the games, there you have criteria. But in the end, it's just you have 50 experiences or maybe more. How many of them were great? How many of them were crap? And that's what makes the Spiel des Jahres in the end. Yeah.
When you test games with new people, do you teach the games or do you expect them to blind test the game?
Of course, I expect them to learn. I don't. It's not always possible that they read the rules because I know everything already. And sometimes when we run out of time, or when it's just when I'm in the mood, I explain it. But normally they have to learn it themselves, and that's also a very important part of Spiel des Jahres, because what's really, during the last 20 years, there were a lot of very great games coming up. But what's really bad still, in a lot of times, is the rules. We have really crappy rules still around, what I don't understand. We had this year, we have we have that every year. We have very good games, we have genius games that we just throw out the list because we cannot be responsible to recommend that to people, and they try to read the rules and they don't understand nothing. So that's a very important part of it.
So, as an organization, if there's another country, a group of journalists from different countries that will be willing to stand up and award, like what you guys with the high level of excellence, will you guys be willing to help them and support them to develop that organization in their own country? Yeah,
the problem is we have a lot of requests about cooperations already. And the problem is that we have very high ethical standards, very high. If you're in the jury, if you're a journalist, you're not allowed to do anything, any kind of deals, anything with the industry. And that's not, if you go deeper into it and you look at these other countries who try to establish something like that or already have established, you don't find that. And then we say, we have an image, we have a reputation, and we have our standards, and we are only going with our standards.
So it's a group of journalists who get together and they will be willing to follow your ethics standards.
Yeah.
You guys will be willing to help them.
Of course, then we will. But we haven't found that until now. Because, Germany, it's not, I don't want to put somebody down, or it's just the culture, the reality that is in Germany is nothing else, nowhere else existing. That's the problem. Yeah.
So if you don't have any kind of cooperation, or if everybody is automatically qualified just by having German rules and distributing in Germany, how are you funded?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's about this logo. It's you have to pay license fee if you want to use the logo. I mean, if we can say you're the winner, and you can advertise that wherever you want, and you don't pay anything. But as soon as you want to use the logo and you print it on your box, then you have to pay a license fee, and that's how the whole thing is funded. And it's still a non-profit organization, and the jury members, they don't get any money. So that's always the point where everybody think, what? Are they crazy to do such an amount of work? And actually, it's still, we're a non-profit organization. We don't pay ourselves anything, and it's just about passion. It's yeah, we have to spend the money for 2 big award ceremonies. Of course, we pay the expenses for the jury members when we meet in conference, or when we go to the fairs, or we pay the hotels and stuff like that. And we have also, you see it in here, we have we will subsidize projects about gaming, as you can, if you have a good idea. Spiel des Jahres will support you and give you money when you want to make a game festival in a city or something like that. And then actually we have to pay taxes in Germany too. So from the whole money that comes in, it's 1/3 of it goes for taxes. Yeah.
Is that money also paying for the games?
No.
Or you get review copies? Or?
No, review copies are free. So the review copies, we don't get them as jury members. We get them as journalists. So the first step is I'm a journalist, I review games, and I should be organized completely with that. And then, because I'm a journalist and because I have these free review copies and I'm reviewing, I become a member of Spiel des Jahres. So Spiel des Jahres actually has nothing to do with that part. Should not have. But of course, if you are a jury member, then it's much easier to get all the games. And that's a fact, yeah.
The question often comes up from different people that possibly a company is chosen for nomination just because of their circumstances.
Yeah.
Or it's sort of like a rotating circuit where they're not going to do this one because they just want this and that.
But there's so many theories about that, and people they try to prove it, and you will never find an algorithm or anything. It's really, we don't care. We really don't care a shit. It's we don't look at the company, we don't look at the designer, we just look at the game. We are just playing the game, and we are just aware of the experiences that happen when we play the game. And it's also people who say, yeah, now there's a more complicated game, or now there's a trend to have more lighter games and things like that.
Or the first-time card game.
Yeah, it's never discussed like this. Of course, we had to discuss with Hanabi. We have this whole game. We looked at all the games that were published that year, and then we were thinking Hanabi is one of the great game of this year. And then we had, of course, to discuss: is it possible to award just a card game? And that was a very heavy discussion, but it had nothing to do with companies or with the inventor. It was just about the game. And we really like to bring the culture of board or card games step forward. So we will always look at innovations, and that was also one of the arguments for Hanabi. I mean, it was something new, and that's, yeah. If we have, I mean, the German game market is really, we always have this same kind of themes and topics, always Middle Age, Romans, and all this word placement and deck building. And I mean, I've played. It's really no exaggeration. I played about 10,000 games during my life, and I don't want to play always the same again and again and again. So we are really looking for innovations and new things, new kind of things. Yeah.
Are you aware of or any comments on the impact of winning the award? What happens to sales of the game? And do you think about if the company is going to be ready to meet that demand of winning the award?
Yeah, that's an important point, because that's why we can't take very small companies into consideration, and that's why we really need a German distribution. Because when we have a new company like from the US that we don't know, and they win the prize, and then they don't supply the market, I mean, it's for us, it would be a very big reputation disaster. So it has to be sure that the company that wins the prize is able to produce. But nowadays it's also like this: if we have a small company from Germany and they win and they don't have any experience, the big companies, they will help them. They will come and they will go there and say, can we do something for you, and we will produce for you and things like that. So that's not really a problem if it's happening inside Germany.
How much do they have to produce? What's their figures to, how big is the demand of winning the award versus not winning the award?
Yeah, we don't tell numbers because it's the business of these companies to do that. But some of them, they publish it, and what we say it's at least 200,000. It's at least 200,000. Normal, yeah, mostly it's more. Very often it's more. It's sometimes it's 500,000. But Hanabi, they published their number in the first year. It was 670,000. But of course, it was a much less expensive game. And then we have a lot of games that reach millions after 1, 2, 3 years. And you know, Settlers now, I don't know if you still can say it has something to do with Spiel des Jahres or not, because it is. But normally, yeah, it's 200,000, 300,000, 400,000.
Do you know how many of the previous winners are still in print?
Not by heart, but if we go through the list, I can tell you. But a lot of them. Yeah, some of them they are reprinted again in different companies. So I could tell you that which ones. But actually, there are some that are out of print, and there are also some Spiel des Jahres which weren't really successful. And a lot of people, they always tell us, yeah, you have such big power, and you decide which games will sell. But actually, there's also a lot of games that didn't win and that weren't recommended, and they were successful. So it's that's also a point that makes us still sleep well, because we know it's not only about us, but of course, because it's this Christmas issue. It's just people, they want a gift and they don't know anything about games. They know, Spiel des Jahres has always been good, so buy it, and yeah.
Where does the average German consumer, the people that you're trying to reach, where do they buy their games in Germany? Do they go to the local hobby store, or do they go to a mass market?
So the people that I would call geeks, or the hobby gamers, they would go to a hobby shop, to a game shop. But at Christmas time, actually, you can buy the game anywhere. Often you can.
So a lot of different stores in Germany carry games.
Everywhere, yeah. And that's a big problem. No, it's not a problem for the consumer, right. But it's also it's a problem for the industry, that the Spiel des Jahres always is sold very, very cheap. The price falling to nowhere. I mean, you can a game that is normally 30 to 40 euro, and it wins Spiel des Jahres. Sometimes it happens that it's only 15 euros or 19.99
that
at
in the
Christmas.
stores or is that online?
That is also in the stores, yeah, because that's how the market works. It's a pity, but it is. Yeah.
Of all the previous award winners, which one's your favorite?
Yeah, that's. My problem is that I never ever normally play all games again, because I have to play so many new games. I always have to play the new games, and I also say playing games. It depends so much about the group you're in and about the situation you're in. So not every game of the year, not every Spiel des Jahres fits for everybody. And when I want to play a game and I have a group, I'm always thinking which game would make the best experience. And so it's always, I adjust it to the people. But I could say a top 5 list or something like that. Games that I still play when I have to say I always make a break. I try to make a break between July and October and try not to play any games during these months. And then sometimes I play old Spiel des Jahres, or I'm up on the mountains, and then we are playing cards or things like that. But my favorites still are, it's Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, it's Quirkle, of course, Dominion was something very special, and I really still also like Hanabi. I like the game, I played a lot of times. Yeah, and of course the new one, Camelot, it's the actual one. It's really, with Camelot, it's really something very special, because this game completely changes the character depending with how many people and with who you are playing it. It's really so many different type of experiences, and that's what that's what a good game is all about. That whenever you play it again, you find something new in it. It's not the same all the time.
At what point do you start notifying publishers that they may be up for Spiel des Jahres?
It's just they don't. We published the recommended list in May after we met in conference. On Sunday or Monday we publish the list, and then they see it. So it's a surprise for them. We don't talk in advance. But of course, because each of us is a reviewer and has reviews on a regular basis, so they could monitor it. They could see what is this reviewer saying about this game, and that reviewer, and so you get a feeling which games could be in the top position. But actually, there's the German publisher, how do you say, the editors from the publishing companies, they are betting each year on the winner, and most of the time they're wrong. So I think 2 years ago it was their number one. It was not Hanabi. It was the game from Cosmos. What was the name? Yeah, La Boca. Yeah, it was La Boca.
Yes. We'll do one more question and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Last question.
Yeah.
Do you and the other reviewers, because you describe that when you're doing the Spiel des Jahres, you're concentrating on family games, so when you're doing your reviews, Do you only review those kinds of games, or do you also do reviews of games that you probably wouldn't look at for Spiel des Jahres because they're too complex or too long?
Yeah, of course. Also, I personally review all kind of games. It's also because you have to have variation in your reviews. And actually, what I also do, I also like to write about really bad games, and because you have to do that. It's entertaining, and it's also it adds to your credibility. Because when you always only write about games that you like, or sort of like, or that are average, or good, and people start to think, what the hell, is this PR? Is it always, aren't there any bad games existing? And about 5-6 times a year, I really crash games. I really, because there's so many bad, that's also a point. I mean, when you have to play all these games all year round, there's so many very, very bad games. I mean, that's what's making me mad sometimes, because I mean, I'm not a publisher and I don't want to lose any money, but you have so many games, you play them one time and you realize they're not working and they're so bad. What did they think? What were they thinking about? Weren't they even playtesting them? And so sometimes you have evenings where you play games. You have 4 or 5 games, and each of them was a bad experience. And so then you need to crash a game in the newspaper that you can restart the bottom again.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much.